And now we present to you America's quintessential iconoclastic anomaly. Wow. In talk radio, your host, Joe Cristiano.
Folks, it's time for us to take back control of our government. Now, before this bureaucratic, oversized, and self-serving federal government starves us of our property, our freedom, our rights, and our liberty. To do this, we must shed conventional thinking regarding our political structure. We need to be revolutionaries in thought, dissidents in action. That's dissidents in action. I hate my own words. Only after we recognize what our government is doing to our freedom and our Constitution will we start taking it back. And this program is just about that. Welcome to the hallowed halls of the University of Logic, better known as Cristiano's Conservatory, correcting convoluted conversation. This is Liberty Talk Radio. I'm your host, Joe Cristiano, on 1170 KFAQ. This is your antidote to popular talk radio. Well, you know, I do things sometimes just to make myself feel good and smart.
Oh,
you know?
well, that's good.
I do that.
Do you give scholarships to the institute here? Or?
Well, the thing is, I know I'm not that smart, and of course the emails I get confirm that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they use a lot of words in there that if I repeated them,
you have to look them up, huh?
Well, no, you'd have to burn out your buzzer button, your
dictionary.com.
button.
Yeah.
And they call me a beep beep.
Oh yeah, there you go.
You know, but you know one thing I do is I watch horror movies.
Oh, I love those too.
Yeah, I watch. You know
now,
why?
which
Because
ones do you watch? You watch
stupid.
the B science fiction movies too. Huh?
They make me feel good. Now I'll tell you what. Yeah, here's your typical horror movie. Somehow a couple winds up in a large mansion out who knows where. You don't know really why they're there, but they wind up there, and of course it's always raining, right?
Yeah.
It's getting dark. Mm-hmm. Maybe their car breaks down, right? They go in there, and
no
it's
spare gas
gigantic
anywhere.
house.
Yeah.
You know who built this house and why it's in the middle of nowhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's this thunder and lightning out. They knock on the door, and of course, there's no one home. There are no lights on, but the door is unlocked. And they walk in. Of course, the door creaks.
All the wonderful sound effects that go with that.
What does the audience say, including myself? Don't go in there. Didn't you read the newspaper? 88 people have died in the past month who passed by this house, and they haven't found the killer yet.
Didn't learn.
Right. So they go in, and of course you're sitting there and you're saying yes. It makes you feel good. Like, you know, I wouldn't do something stupid like that. So they
like
go in, right?
Haunted house, yeah.
Now the guy is always, you know, Mr. Macho.
Yeah.
You know, he knows what to do. He
Very
says,
svelte and
"Well, Marianne, stay here in the living room, which is all
check
dark,
things out."
Right? Yeah. I'm going to go downstairs in the basement
to check things out
and check it to see if I can get the lights to turn on.
Massacre going on
how this guy knows where the switch box is beyond me in this gigantic. But of course he leaves, and then she's there alone, right?
Well, of course.
And then you're saying, leave the house.
Yeah. Go back to the car, lock the door.
Of course she doesn't. What she does is she goes after her boyfriend Richard, you know, who's
to go
down
find
in the
where he's
basement.
at. Yeah.
Now, little does she know that Richard is in 16 pieces at this point.
Zombie eyes.
Right. And what is the audience saying? Don't go down there, right? See how smart they are? So when she goes down there, and now back in the old days, they used to use matches, right? They used to light a match.
Yeah,
of course,
or a torch of some sort, yeah.
But in the house, that little match, you know, and they go, and she has high heel shoes,
or a candle.
walking down, or a candle, right? And she's walking down the steps, of course, and you go, don't go down there. That's where everyone dies, you know. So you feel really smart, like you know what to do.
Exactly.
Right? Of course, she goes down there, and now they use their iPhone as a light. You ever notice that?
Yeah.
I've seen that.
That's a great
They walk
flashlight,
down there,
actually.
she turns the iPhone on, and it was amazing. The entire basement lit up. You think there was like 3,000, what do you call it, watts of power coming out of this thing, you know?
Mercury halogen light down there.
Well, of course, you go down there, and then the monster comes out of the wall, and she's in 19 pieces, and then, of course, you feel good afterwards. You say, I would not have done that, right? I'm smarter than that.
And of course, the movie's not over yet.
I
because
have to
they
watch
come back
something,
to life.
Yeah, but I have to watch something really dumb to make me feel smart.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we all do that, I think, Joe.
But little do you realize that all of these movies are metaphors. They're metaphors for the way that we live, just like the Matrix is a metaphor for our form of government and who we are and in our society.
Well, sure.
Yeah. And the thing is, we do things. Let's go back to the .com era, all right?
Yep.
Now, if this was 1997, 1998, what would you say? You'd say, don't buy those internet stocks. Profits do count.
Yeah.
I recall back then, people saying, I'm not kidding you, there's a guy who had a lot of money, left a very good job, and went 100% into the .com, mania thing.
No, sure. Yeah, a lot of people did that.
I was at a conference with him, and he turned around and he says, Joe, you don't understand. I said, no, I don't understand, because I'm a hard metals guy,
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying, profits don't count anymore. It's revenues.
Oh.
Now, that's like walking down the steps with the candle.
Yeah.
No, really. It's the same thing. And I want to say to myself, I'm saying to them, don't go there.
And a lot of people went there and lost their bahangas.
That's right. And that's exactly what happened. And what happened when they were giving out loans for housing, right?
Yep.
And, of course, all of these Keynesian economists say, oh, look, everything is doing well now because more homes are being sold. Yeah, they're giving more homes away to people who can't afford them.
That's right,
and
or shouldn't qualify for
there
a
were
loan.
lots of people, Peter Schiff among them, Joe Salente, Giuseppe Cristiano, all these guys, were saying, don't go there. No, really, it's the same thing. And we knew, you don't give someone a teaser loan on a $450,000 house whose taxes are going to be $4,000 to $5,000 a year, and the guy works part-time at Wendy's. I mean, there's a problem with that.
Awful.
Don't go there,
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so we're all smart when we see this, and if you ask even those people who are deeply embedded in our economy today and doing all the wrong things, they can tell you everything was wrong with the horror movie. They can tell you everything that was wrong with the .com era. Everything was wrong with the bubble in mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what they can't recognize? What they are doing today.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's the talking point. You understand? That's a talking point. I got to point to someone like my staff here.
Yeah.
That's the talking point. We don't recognize what we are doing today. We are living our life as if everything we are doing is correct, normal, and will last forever. What people do not realize is that in 2008, we never had an economic collapse or crash.
They kicked the can down the road.
Exactly. That was my wife, folks. And she knows everything. She is always correct. Right, dear?
I have a question.
Yes, dear.
Speaking of horror movies,
Okay.
do you think that at least some of the horror movies, in their, albeit insanity, that they can be algorithms or anagrams or a story that mimics and reflects current life, like The Wizard of Oz was?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do. I honestly
We
feel
recently
that way.
saw Wicked, and it's very apparent. Although when I read the book as a child, it wasn't that apparent, but now it is rather. And I wonder, are horror movies the same?
Yeah, I think horror movies
Even other dramas and action adventure movies are the same too.
Well,
Hunger Games is a perfect example.
what about the nursery rhymes?
Yeah.
They were all
Grimm's
political.
fairy tales.
They were all political. Around the road, the games kids played, they were subversive lyrics against the king or the queen or whomever at that time, and it was a way of disguising it so they wouldn't get burned at the stake. A lot of it has to do with that. Now, obviously, you get the Transformers. In fact, I want to go see that maybe tomorrow
that's
night.
a great movie.
I don't like that because it's just a lot of noise, but I want to see it on the
On
iMac,
IMAX,
on 3D,
sure.
and whatever. But you see, my point is that we do not want to recognize that we are living in another .com bubble. We don't want to recognize that we are living in another housing bubble. We don't want. Let me give you an example. Wall Street Journal, right?
Yep.
I tell you, I'm on the same page with General Salente on these newspapers. I tell you, they are bad. I subscribe to this, and they're bad. All right? By the way, this is headline: Broad Gains Power Historic Rally. Okay?
Broad Gains Power Historic Rally. Okay.
Rally. That's the stock market. Everything's up. Housing is up. Bada bing, bada bang, bada boom. Yeah, they're giving more money away. Right. You turn the page, and in small print, you say, Uncle Sam wants you unless you're 71% of youths. In other words, 71% of our youth today are unqualified to serve in the armed forces because they are either on drugs, they have tattoos all over their face and their neck, and they won't let them in, they haven't graduated high school, they cannot pass the test, or the largest majority, 29% or something like that, are obese and cannot pass the physical.
Yeah, can.
Yeah. Or on drugs. I said drugs. I think I said
Do boot
drugs,
camp.
right? Yeah.
Without
In other words,
passing out.
But listen, 71% of our youth don't qualify even to go into the Army.
Wow.
That is a historical high by threefold.
No, sure it is.
So when we have our young unqualified to go into the Army because they on drugs, they're obese, they're uneducated, how could you say we're in a historic times where things are getting better? Let's take a break. I want you to think about that, folks. We're back, and we're talking about making ourselves feel good by believing in stuff that doesn't exist.
Why don't you give the phone number again if people want to call about that too?
Yeah, please. Yeah, let me hear your take on it. 855-866-1170. It's 855-866-1170. You know, even if you want to call in, especially if you're female and you want to tell me I'm wonderful and I'm good looking, even call in to say that. It's okay. You don't have to say anything intelligent, Yeah. You can even lie if you want. It's fine, okay? But we're talking about the economy and how people perceive the economy, and they have this normalcy bias, I think. This normalcy bias, and they think whatever's happened yesterday is going to happen today and tomorrow, and so everything is fine and nothing will ever change, right? But let's look at some other things. Do you know one reason why the GDP went way down, 2.9%, knocked everyone's socks off, and they're saying, oh, that's just an anomaly, that's no problem. One reason why it went down is because health care was lower than expected. Health care. Now, just think, when health care goes up, that shouldn't add to the GDP. That should subtract. That means people are sick. But that adds to the GDP. That gives you an idea of how sick our numbers are. Is that when our GDP goes down is because people are not getting sick enough. All right, so let's give out sick pills.
There you go.
Another item is that we look at the PE ratios of the stock market. They want to talk about the stock market.
Price per earnings ratio.
Hell yes, it's high. Do you know, I follow the Russell 2000. Those are small and mid-cap stocks because those companies are usually not involved so much in government, contracts and whatever. So these are the people who are working for a living, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Now, 15 to 1 is about the max that you should have price earnings ratio. Price of the stock to earnings, should be 15 to 1, right? Russell right now is 84.4 to 1.
Wow.
Okay? All right. Even the Dow Utilities is 23 to 1. So we're talking about we're at the high end, no matter which way you look at it, we're at the high end. And what do you see? And the top headline, everything's fine, everything's going up. You know why everything's going up? Because they're giving out more credit cards. 7% more increased solicitation of credit cards to subprime creditors, right?
Same thing for buying cars.
Right. Mm-hmm. Same thing with cars. Mm-hmm. And here's the beauty of it. Cars are going to be the nemesis of this entire economy because what is happening is people the car manufacturers, in their competitiveness, have done a great job of making a car last a long time.
Sure they have.
I remember back in my days. No, this is right after the horse. You know?
Just after the Model T was
we had
introduced.
cars when I was young. No, I swear we did. You know, they actually had engines in them. You know, and I'm of the old muscle car era. If a car had 40,000 miles and you try to sell it, never happened. I mean, you literally $100. They give you $100.
That's right. Yeah,
and in good condition. 40,000 miles. It was a dead car. Today, people, my son, both of my sons, in fact, are both looking for cars, but they're looking for 10-year-old cars with about 100,000 miles on it. They figure they get a good 5 and 10 years at it, and they're looking to pay around $4,000.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Perfect sense.
And people don't have the disposable income. So what's happening? They're making new cars. And now here's the trick in the car industry that very few people know, is that you can't stop making cars because you have a certain fixed cost, you have an assembly line, and you have union contracts that dictate that people show up and they put on so many tires on so many cars per day. I mean, you can have 0 customers. Those cars are going out the front door,
right.
the back door. So we have a situation where we are going to wind up. But I predict that we're going to have a tremendous car glut. Now, understand one reason why we have been selling cars is because we have been trying to give them away. We charge the heck out of them, like $38,000 for a car and whatever, but people are buying them because they're getting 0% financing. What does that sound like?
$10,000 paid on your credit card or whatever.
Yeah, exactly, right? And 7 years to pay. Now they want to think about going 10 years. In other words, you're going to get a mortgage to buy your car.
Exactly.
I heard the other day, and I wish I can get some documentation on this, and I was unable to do it for this broadcast, but they were talking about interest-only payments on cars. Now, when you think of that, that's insane. Now, I could be wrong. I wish 855-866-1170. Someone call in. If someone heard that, please correct me, please. But just think of the insanity of the whole thing. People are getting in debt and further in debt, and consumer debt continues to rise. Consumer income continues to fall. Mm-hmm. Price-earnings ratios are going through the roof. People cannot find jobs. People are in debt. Suicides are up because of financial strife, and everyone's in the headlines. Everything is fine.
Yep.
Folks, the dot-com era, the bubble, the bond bubble. We have a bond bubble now. Mm-hmm. We had a mortgage bubble. It's all the same. Now, people look toward China, and they go, oh, but look, the China miracle, right? Little do people know that the financing for everything that is occurring in China is being done by the shadow banking system. Now, the shadow banking system is the banking system that's not supposed to exist. It's not the regulated system. It's not the stuff like where you go to your bank in the corner and you have a checking account. That's the The shadow banking system is money that's created outside of the system, right? And controlled by the financiers, and also constantly refinanced by governments. Like in our case, the Federal Reserve. They're our government, by the way.
Exactly.
I mean, they're not part of the government, but they are our government.
So, Joe, to go back to the car thing, are you thinking kind of the same thing as far as like the housing bubble crashing? Are you suspecting something in terms of a car?
Eventually, yeah.
Okay.
Now, the bad part about both housing and cars is that when you don't build a house, what happens? It affects the rubber industry. It represents the metal industry, the bricks. Right. Every industry,
all different facets,
every industry in known to mankind goes into a house, as well as even more so in a car, because you got the petrochemical industry, the plastics industry, the electronics industry. Everything backflushes. The government is frightened to death that cars will stop rolling off the assembly line, because if they ever stop, the backflush is so dramatic that it will put us in a severe depression. immediately. It would almost be in an immediate happy. There are still airfields all around the world that are no longer being used, that are filled with cars that were placed there when they couldn't sell them in 2009, and they're still there. Wow. And we are talking hundreds of thousands. No one knows the number. Some even say millions of cars rotting brand new with 5 miles on them.
Wow.
So
also come up, excuse me, what's that thing, July 1st, the tax...
Oh, FATCA.
FATCA.
Oh, yeah. That's foreign account tax.
FATCA, yeah. That's coming up here couple 3 days.
Yeah. There are those that feel that the FATCA that's the Foreign Account Compliance Act.
Right.
Yeah.
The taxation.
Right. Mm-hmm. And what's interesting is there's now a GATCA, and that's the Global Accounting Tax Compliance Act.
Wow.
Which has not been approved yet by the, I guess, UN or whomever, because if the United States can in fact impose restrictions or rules on foreign entities and how they handle taxes, and if they don't report back to us, we penalize them, then they'll do the same to us. In other words, the world will drown in paperwork and all interstate commerce will stop.
Yeah,
everything will just stop.
Come to a screeching halt.
Yeah, there are people who predict that. Sainsbury's one guy. He's a monetary columnist. He says it's going to stop come July 1st. Ball game is over. You know? Now, I spoke with Peter Schiff. I actually called him on it.
Did you really?
2 weeks ago, and he said that he didn't think it was going to happen that way, but what would happen, in his opinion, is that was just going to be another nail in the coffin, so to speak, to restrict it. And this is what happened during World War I and during the Depression, is when one country said, well, you're going to put a tariff on that, we'll put a tariff on this. And all of a sudden you had worldwide, we don't know, as Jim Ricketts would say in that book, The Death of Money. Right? In fact, I have it here somewhere. Here it is. My favorite book. This is the Bible. It says, The Coming Collapse of the International Monetary System. Most brilliant man in the world when it comes to monetary policy. Government uses him. Right? He says, we don't know when the last snowflake will fall that will cause the international global crisis. But it is imminent, and what we currently have is unsustainable. What China is doing with ghost cities is 60%, I believe, of their GDP is investment. Well, that sounds good, but it's investment in building cities. Could you imagine cities? They have cities that have high-speed rail, 305 kilometers per hour, going to train stations that, we would die for. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, there's no one there, and the trains go back and forth, and there's no... entire cities. And guess what they're doing? They're building new cities because no one's there. No one lives there. No one goes there. I saw a video of one of the shopping centers, big mall, much bigger than Woodland Hill over here, and resident one. And that was the guy, the custodian. There's one custodian, and he walks around making sure the windows aren't broken, and he's cleaning the floor, and they follow him around. Amazing.
So you're saying China has entire cities that just have nobody in there?
Entire cities. And buildings, factories, condos, apartments, office buildings. We are talking trillions of dollars of money.
Vacant real estate.
Zero. Right. Now, we build one building like this, and it rattles the economy. We cannot build one high-speed rail. One from point A to point B without going bankrupt. They've got several, and there's no one on the trains. Why? My wife asks, why? Because if they stop building, it's like us stop producing cars.
Yeah, right.
Everything backflushes, the economy totally collapses. And this is why when you see garbage in garbage newspapers like the Wall Street Journal, by the way, broad gains power historic rally, it's like saying profits don't count anymore. It's all revenues. Why don't we take a break? Stay with us. We're going to have some guests we'd like to introduce. Be with us. Welcome back to the House of Horrors.
Yeah, it's kind of like the way it is, isn't it?
The House of Monetary Horrors. I tell you, if you want to feel comfortable in what you're doing, turn off this broadcast immediately. Hey, you know, this is the second half of our broadcast, and we have a couple of guests here today. I'd like to introduce them. Well, first of all, our producer's with us today. You know, I have to be nice. Gary Varner. Gary Varner, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone.
and we have a guest, and her name, I got her name here. I wrote it down. Maddie Scott. Maddie Scott is a senior with Tulsa School of Arts and Sciences, and she's on the Debating Society, Debating Club, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive.
Pretty cool, yeah.
You got to be smart to do that. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right, and I'll get right back to you, okay? We want to hear some... and also, some guy who just came off the street. No, really, we met Kevin last week after the show, and Kevin Hicks is here. Kevin, would you like to say hello or say something about yourself? I'll leave it up to you.
Hello, everybody. I'm a cook at Wingstop, and I pretty much study on my own time. Philosopher, history, science, whatever piques my mind.
Yeah, well, I can vouch for that because he stopped us. We were talking in at the Tropical Cafe.
Yeah.
Right, at the Tropical, and he made a lot of sense. You know, I said, wow, this guy should have his own radio. You should have your own radio program.
I get that. You know, some people tell me your mouth don't close. You know.
I'll tell you this. All right, look, you have an open invitation to come here. You can be my quasi co-host if you want. Okay,
that'd be perfect.
All right, good. All right, now, we have everyone here, and we have Lane. Lane is our cameraman today, and of course, my lovely wife Erin is here. She's always here. She's always supports me, and I love her dearly for it. Okay, I love you, honey. Okay, baby. All right, now, you know, I heard a speech, a preacher the other day. And he gave a phenomenal speech. I mean, just very short. A preacher, you know, I mean, a sermon. Right?
On TV or what was it?
On radio.
On radio, okay.
Yeah. And it was moving. It was absolutely moving. I felt so good because it wasn't just spiritual. It was you really connected with it, you know. And I really felt, I said, now this guy knows how to talk to people. And he ended it this way. He said, and the square root of 16 is 4.
Okay.
I'm lost.
Yeah.
No, what was that?
I'm lost.
You're lost. What do you mean you're lost?
The spiritual significance of the square root of 16 has me confounded.
Oh, that has you confused.
Oh, yeah, maybe a little bit, Gary.
How surprising. You know what? Now, I say that only because we had our elected officials on the program, you know, the people who are running for office.
Running for office, yeah.
And we have elected officials. And these people... What grabs me is they'll be talking about a monetary issue running for office, right? And how do they end it? And God bless you. You see my point? Anyone get my point now? Does anyone out there get my point? Here the guy's talking monetary issues, and he said, and God bless you. So I said, well, I want a preacher to be talking about God and ending it with square root of 16 is 4. If that makes any damn sense to you, then all these clowns who are running for office, who invoke God, you know, should go, you know where there's a lot of heat. Because they're using it. It's like, you know, I'm going to use God, you know, so I can get elected. Now, that to me is a mortal sin.
You're not talking about Florida, are you?
No, I'm talking about here in Tulsa. Well, look at it. Langford was that way. We had Langford on the program, you know?
Yeah.
And what did he say? Bingo. You know, he did the same thing.
That God led him.
I said,
that God led him.
Yeah, that's right. How come you're a congressman? Why are you going for that? Well, God told me to. What do you hear, voices?
Harvey the Rabbit, Joe.
We ran out of time. The guy probably going to be on the program again because he gets chewed up. But I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's horrible. I don't like when they do that. Now, don't get me wrong. I have nothing against God. God and I are good friends. Yeah.
What happened to the separation between church and state?
There's a gal for you.
Novel thing in the Constitution.
That's right.
Declaration.
But I did ask him, do you believe in the separation? He said, absolutely. So did T.W. Shannon.
Yeah.
The same thing. And yet God came out every other sentence. Oh, come on.
But that's every conservative Republican for you.
What's that?
That's every conservative Republican.
Yes, that's why they suck.
Absolutely.
Every one of them. Every single one of them suck.
Manipulate
Period.
heartstrings.
Oh no! I know.
The Democrats use the same thing too.
And the reason why they
sacred
suck,
cow, so to speak.
They really do. They just stink. Is that they're not honest. I mean, be honest. I don't compromise on anything. I mean, if you compromise, that means you're compromising your principles. You know.
Well, I mean, that's the tactic of politicians in general, though. I mean, the people in the Midwest, a lot of them are religious. So the Republicans scream Jesus, the Democrats scream gay rights, and it's all a game. And they use those things to divide everybody. Yep. And they're laughing in Washington, calling us a bunch of schmucks.
Absolutely. Exactly. You know, one of my hot buttons this week is I'm a New York Giant fan.
Okay.
Football. I was born in Harlem. You know, I sang doo-wop back in the 50s. Lived in the Bronx for a while. I went to all the Mickey Mantle when Mickey Mantle paid the Yankees. It was on the Yankees. I used to go in the bleachers with my glove. In fact, I'll be honest with you. And Mickey Mantle, if he was like, he'd tell you this. I mean, he would never have made it without me because I used to coach him in center field. I did. I coached Mickey Mantle in the field when I was a kid, you know. Oh. And, yeah, I knew more than he did, of course, you know. I said, hey, Mickey, step back further, you know. Pearsall is up, you know. And anyway, but I forgot what I was going to say. You know, I just...
shut down.
No, yeah. And so I used to go to the Giant Fair. My brother-in-law was, in fact, the doctor for Giant Stadium, for New York Stadium. And I used to have to go with him because it was kind of a tough neighborhood. He wouldn't go by himself. I had to go with him, you know. And we went in this old Corvair, and he had the only Corvair in the world that didn't have windshield washers. You know, they had windshield wipers. Yeah. But the washer element was extra money. And he didn't buy it.
He didn't buy that option.
He bought a squeezy, you know. He did. We used to do that to wash it while we're driving. I'm not making this stuff up. This is the guy that was an old green ugly thing. Anyway, well, we used to go there and we used to sit there and we had such great seats. We would be, you know, of course, he's a doctor of the stadium. We would be right, and he was an intern at the time, so he had no money. That's why he had this old car. And we used to sit right behind all the coaches and whatever, and you couldn't see the game. It was horrible. And every once in a while, he'd get up and leave and come back again and go, hey, Lenny, what happened? He goes, hey, guy died of a heart attack. But my point being is this, is that although I was a Giant fan, I loved the Washington Redskins. Mm-hmm. I liked the uniform. I liked that. I never once in my mind did I say Redskins and think...
Derogatory towards Native Americans.
It was like saying, you know, the Baltimore Colts. You know, you don't. I know it's the Minneapolis Colts or whatever they are now. Indianapolis Colts. Yeah. I know. But you know how far back I go. But, you know, to me, I love the uniforms. I love the logo. I thought it was very respectful. I thought it was great. To me, it was a tribute, you know? It's like, Kevin, you're a black guy. I can't call you. I'm a white guy.
Yes, sir.
You know? We're all wrong. I'm not a white guy anymore. But yet, when the government gives me a form, they go like this, are you white? I go, wait a minute. I can't root for the Redskins? You can't call me white. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. You call me a white man? I'm going to punch you in the nose. You know, we are so screwed up in this society. We are producing nothing. We're producing idiots. And then we spend all our time creating bureaucracies
and minutia.
Yeah, minutia.
Yeah.
You know, trying to correct problems that don't exist, and then creating problems, and then destroying one of my favorite football teams. Although they were the nemesis of the New York Giants. I mean, they used to go bang.
Oh, sure, that was a big rivalry.
And yet, I like the Washington Redskins. I'll be honest with you. I still root for them today. If they change their name, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. Let me ask, what's hot and what's not right now on the debating team, Maddie?
Well, we were talking about this before we started, and a lot of the debates are one-sided. Like, there's one side that's obviously right, and there's the other side that you have to make up evidence for.
Well, do they do that intentionally, or they just really feel that way?
I'd like to think that they do it intentionally to challenge us, but I don't know. We talk about stuff that's been happening like recently in the government. Like we've talked about Syria, and like national security is a big thing. And last year, all of our topics were about morality. So,
morality.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't even know how to get my arms around that thing. Someone said morality. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a friendly word. It's not.
It's
not
a
a great
tough
thing.
word.
It is.
It's a tough word. But you said Syria. Now, I get my hands around Syria. What I love about Syria is the fact that we financed the radicals in Syria, right? The radicals in
Exactly.
right, to go against the Syrian government, right?
Assad.
Unfortunately, they decided to jump ship and go to Iraq, and now they took all the Humvees, all the ammunition, and now we're supplying them. So our government has fixed it. I swear this is a headline.
Our government trained Iraqis.
I got to give you the headline. I got a headline somewhere.
Okay,
I got a headline. Someone find the headline. It's a Syria headline. I'm pretty sure. I can't find it. But it says now, U.S. has decided to back the moderate Syrians. So what we're doing is saying, oh, sorry, we had the radical Syrians that we're going to the moderate. We're going to give them billions of dollars. It's correct. Is this not madness?
Yeah.
Now, but now I heard Peter Schiff give a speech on this, and this is very good. They say we have to go in there and protect our interest in Iraq, because we spent just to build it, the construction cost of the consulate, $750 million. Wow. Kevin, that's more than your house, I'll bet.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Okay? Yeah, but it's more than my house, I'll tell you that, right? And then if you throw in all the other stuff, we're in the billions of dollars. They say, we can't throw that away. What's the option? To go there and spend another few $billion, of which we have to borrow to do it. You see what I mean? And yet the headline says everything is fine. Everything. It's that insurance commercial. This is not the way things are supposed to work. This is not the way any of this is supposed to work. You see, we are not supposed to be involved in foreign entanglements. There ain't no such thing as American exceptionalism. You know what? We're no different than anybody else. And if you think you're better than some person in Kazakhstan who's trying to eke out a living, I said, you're an ungodly person. Then you can say you're an ungodly person. You're someone who disrespects your fellow person. And that's wrong. And we do everything wrong. It's like the commercial. None of this is supposed to be this way. None of it. And yet we bring up, just think of the logic. Our president, and I thought I never thought anyone could
be as
ever
bad as
trump
George Bush.
My radio program, George Bush, I didn't give 1 centimeter. This guy I nailed on everything, right? And I was pleased when Barack Obama won. I was one of those that said, the Cheney era is over.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And then I got scared. You know when I got scared? You know when they had that big celebration, and I'm not sure what it was. It wasn't the White House, and there were millions of people showed up. It was right after he won the election. They had this, I forgot where it was, and they had this big walkway, and he walked out, and there were millions of people in the street all over the place. And
Wasn't it in Chicago or in Illinois, someplace like that?
I don't remember, but it was like millions of people there. It was a big celebration celebrating his victory.
I believe it was Chicago.
It was Chicago. Okay.
Yes,
and listen, I was one of them. I mean, I thought that was a great thing. He walked out, and I understand body language enough. When he walked out on that runway, and he looked down on the people, I thought to myself, oh, my God, here we go again.
Part 2.
Yes. Oh, my God. You know what? And my heart sunk. I said, don't tell me we did it again.
We did.
I can't believe we did it again. And I can make a case, either one way or the other, that he is worse than Bush. And you go, but it's not supposed to work. None of this is supposed to work this way. And so here we are. And here's a guy who by the way, and we've done this with other presidents, who will say, we will send our young men and women to die in a foreign country that we are not at war with. If they don't die, they'll come back screwed up in the head, maybe, most of them, arms and legs cut off. No VA to help them out. That they'll be a casualty
really
when they get here because they'll be faked out, right? Right? And it'll be my grandson that will be going and my granddaughter that will be going. She'll come back mutilated one way, shape, or form, and the government's going to ask me to pay for it. I'm going to pay for the VA that doesn't work. I'm going to pay for the Army, or all the medical, everything. I pay for everything. And what do we say? Geez, the president made a bold move. Oh, my God. I mean, just think of the logic. But that's why I like horror movies. Like at the beginning of this thing, I said I love horror movies because it makes me right. I know when they're walking down the steps in the dark with the candle and all that. Don't go there. You see how smart I am? I know you're not supposed to go there. Americans don't know we're not supposed to go there. World War I was wrong. Over there, it should have been not over there. And yet in our history books, what do? Over there, over there.
For freedom.
Pistol packing mama.
Right? Oh, man, this made me feel good. And then when they got there, they
ammunition.
said, this sucks. And people died needlessly. Absolutely needlessly. How much wrong does our government have to participate in before people start getting 1/10 as angry as I am?
Well, like Stephen Achinsky says, all a great power has to do to destroy itself is persist in trying to do the impossible.
Say that again. No, say that again. I got to absorb that
You
one.
need to get up the microphone there.
Get up to the microphone.
All a great power has to do to destroy itself is persist in trying to do the impossible.
Okay. It's like, yeah. And do you think we're trying to do the impossible?
Definitely.
Yeah.
We're trying to police the world.
Yeah.
That alone right there is impossible.
Yeah, I mean, all these different cultures, religions, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, what's worse is we don't even have a definition of what we're trying to do in the first place.
No game.
Yeah.
So no wonder it's impossible. We don't even know what we're doing.
And we barely have a handle on our country, and why are we running around trying to fix everyone else's problems when we have so many of our own here that we need to fix?
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's big business because I'm sure a lot of it is based on corporate protection.
Yeah, big banks, corporations.
Big oil.
That's
Definitely
right.
big oil.
Hey, I got a lot of money in oil. Keep them tanks rolling.
Exactly.
No, I
Shell's
do.
still doing good for you there,
Listen, I
Joe,
said this
isn't it?
last month. I have a lot of money in oil.
Royal
I
Dutch.
am
You
making
said
money
Royal
on
Dutch
this
Shell.
deal. I'm
Yeah.
not proud. I mean, it's just that it's an oil company. I mean, I don't want this.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that. But I, in fact, have profited by this. And I think that's abominable. That's wrong. But then most people are not even profiting by it. They're losing their loved ones. And they're losing their future. And they are losing their country all at the same time. And their freedom and their liberty. And folks, if you're not listening to Liberty Talk Radio, you're missing out on something.
Mm-hmm.
You are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, and I say that not tongue-in-cheek. I say that sincerely. Because most radio programs, there's a few great ones out there. Many radio programs will talk this way, but then there's the caveat. But we have to go in there and we have to take out Saddam Hussein, or whatever the case may be. And we don't know our history. Look at our history. We say we had to take Saddam Hussein out. Who put him in power? We went over there, helped Saddam Hussein get into power, deposed of the duly elected president so that we can go to war with Iran because the Ayatollah Khomeini didn't want any part of the United States. We were going to fix them, right? So now Saddam Hussein and the Iraqi army were the good guys. As soon as Saddam Hussein said, I'm going to sell oil to whomever I want to sell it to, outside the petrodollar, weapons of mass destruction. We are crazy. We are, we were the most loved country around the world 40 years ago, 50 years ago. We're the most disliked today by any measure. You know, I was playing a song. We're almost out of time, but I was playing my wife buys me some old doo-wop songs, you know. I sang tenor, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
You know, all that stuff, you know. You know, anyway. And I really don't listen to those songs because the nostalgia is so strong. I personally, emotionally can't handle it. She spent lots of money getting special records for me of those times, of those movies, and I can't listen to them. And I never do. Ask them. I never listen to them. And one time she asked me, she said, "Didn't you like my gift?" I said, "I loved your gift." She said, "Well, they're still in the shrink wrap, you know." I said, "You know, they're still in the box or whatever." But she said, I've never heard you listen to them. I said, "I know." She said, "You said you love them. Why?" I said, "Because I can't. I just can't." That's how strong. My point being here is that those songs were what? Boy meets girl, right? Boy loves girl. They're all the same.
Bubble
you know?
gum and all that stuff.
I can go through probably about
Bobby
a dozen
Sox.
songs in about 30 seconds of the titles, and they're all the same. I've got a girlfriend. She says I'm the only one. You and I, Kevin, you and I got to start a group.
Yeah, there you go.
But what happened when we were in, what was strange is that we were in Korea at the time. So we weren't really at peace. We were still at war. Okay, but we were getting out of Korea. But we went to Vietnam, and what happened to the songs?
Yep.
All right. All of a sudden,
Protest songs.
And you see, the government actually changed the mentality of the people.
Through music.
It changed society for us. And it wasn't the people. It wasn't the kids of the 60s were no good.
They were voicing the concerns.
It was the cause of all of our problems. And the cause of our problems is government. The core problem that we have is our government.
Joe, I think something to further make your point is I found what you were looking for as far as the U.S.'s role in Syria and Iraq, and there's a couple paragraphs here that I think would be kind of interesting. Basically, the days of high-stakes Middle East diplomacy on a trip to Secretary of State John Kerry completed Friday, combined with a $50 million plan for supporting Syrian rebels announced the day before the White House, they outlined a marketed expanded U.S. role in the region's chaotic security and political landscape. Basically, it goes on to say that they're going to get rid of Iraq's prime minister and, fund the rebels again. So it's just the same thing over and over and over again. Every time there's a problem, fund the rebels, get rid of the leadership, get involved, nation building. It's just an endless cycle.
Well, someone sent me a cartoon by Austin Powers, and he's laughing and he's saying, "We just create worthless electronic money out of nothing. Then we lend it out and charge interest on it. Then we make them give us their houses and real wealth when they cannot pay." And with that, Gary, thank you very much for being here. Maddie, thank you very much for being here today. You two come back. Kevin, we'd love to see you back again. Thank you, honey, for being here. Thank you, Wayne, for being our cameraman. And this is the end of tonight's broadcast, or this is the close of tonight's broadcast. We'd like to thank our sponsors for their financial support, and we'd like to thank you for listening in. You can further the cause of liberty by recommending this program to your friends, and let us hear from you. It's comments at libertytalkradio.com. This is Joe Cristiano on 1170 KFAQ. Stay well, stay tuned.